Hey everyone, this is Cindy. It's an open door. It's December 5th, 2025. Don't know how that happened. This is the hour we've entitled Sharing the Word. We, Sandra and Amy, facilitate our reading of Resurrection, and we tend to begin with a clip of the guides. And I got one set up. I did do that before I went down the rabbit hole of watching kids laughing on Instagram. So let me do that. Here we go.
Now, to be sung anew is to understand that you are already singing, but the song that is your energetic field is operating in a vibrational accord with a level of manifestation you've become accustomed to. And this is what we call the common field, or reality as you have prescribed, underline that word, prescribed reality to be. And the prescription of reality is actually a shared construct, what daylight is, what sunset means, what a star shine looks like, and what it means to have a cold or a difficult day or a poor idea of self. You understand the majority of your experience through what others have instructed you to understand. You understand the bodies that you are in through the agreement to being in a body first and foremost, but then what the body has been presumed to be and how it is presumed to operate, which you have done as best you might in the collective field. And in doing so, you actually honor the body, but only at the level of vibrational accord that the body is operating at. And the level of vibration that the body is operating at is indeed limited at this time through your subjective experience and collective experience of potentiality, or what may be known in and as form. Now, to understand that the process of embodiment, and we will use that term carefully here, embodiment of the divine self, is a process of undergoing transition or transposition from one level of vibrational tone, song, octave, to a higher one. And the process of moving through the lower fields of density to the higher one requires the individual and the body to release the things that have inhibited its transition to the higher state. The encounter one has with his or her past creations, what it has thought to be the self, what the self has believed to be around him or her, the limitations that the body and the senses might hold, are all things that you must encounter as you move through them and then beyond them. Moving beyond them must be understood as not abandoning them, but re-seeing them or re-singing them, again, song or tone, in a higher accord, A-C-C-O-R-D or A-C-H-O-R-D, as on a piano. The chord that is sung in these instructions from what we call the upper room, which is the octave above the common field, or beyond the reality that you have conceded to, and we use that word intentionally, you have conceded to this reality because you are not taught that you could operate beyond it, must be understood as the transition humanity is now undergoing. And humanity is undergoing this transit in clumsy ways, in perfect ways, in ways that you would not choose as personalities, but perhaps in ways that are essential to the recomprehension of the song that humanity holds the capacity to sing. The increments of change that is undergone through these instructions must be understood as ones that must be attended to as you rise up in tone. In other words, those of you who wish the magic wand to appear and plant you someplace other, where you are free of your karmic debts, or free of your past presumptions, or free of that marriage that doesn't quite work, or that career that doesn't quite satisfy, to some idea of perfection that has been assumed by the personality self. This is the belief that the small self holds about what heaven must be. But in fact, the transition to the higher is something that is undergone in stages, and stages so that you may actually assimilate and acclimate to each level of vibration as the aspect of you that is already fully aligned here, which we'll call the divine self, the Christ within you, the monad, the divine light, call it what you wish, already is espousing there and is claiming all things new from this plane of vibration. The aspect of you that we call the divine self or the monad already expresses in the octave beyond the common field. And the opportunity here, if you so choose it, is to move through the layers of density to what we call the upper room, where the monad of the divine self may flower and flower in as and with you. And you may underline those words, in, as, and with. Now, to be in the divine and to be of the divine is to be as the divine. When you become one with the source of all things, you are as the divine, operating in a singular way. And the claim that we will indeed instruct you in, I am in God, I am of God, I am with God, must be understood as a comprehensive instruction in inhabiting, experiencing, and knowing the divine self that has indeed come as you. And this aspect of self is already in flower and present in fullness in the upper room. But in order for you to incarnate or experience this level of vibration, you must lift the residual affects of past choice, the past beliefs, the density you carry in your accord with the common field, in your agreement to what you think should be, in order to then move beyond it. You are not deciding what is so as much as re-knowing what has already been true and what has been denied or ignored or refuted. The understanding that you all have as a collective species in a collective agreement to manifestation is that things may or not be as they have been. And because you are right now standing at a time of enormous change, you feel yourselves teetering on a precipice, and you do not know whether you will fall or fly. And we will suggest that some may choose to fall, but all eventually will fly. And what that really means is the aspect of the self that already knows itself in a higher octave or higher accord is present now within you and is seeking its permission to be itself in flight, in rising, in acknowledgement of the high tone that it can only be sung in and through. The one who falls is the one who elects to deny this aspect of self. But even that human being will rise because she herself, he himself, will comprehend this truth in time. And the idea that many are called but few are chosen must be released now, because this is a teaching of the entirety. It is not the teaching for or of the chosen few. Any teaching that would claim separation, some will rise and some must fall, and some must live high and some must live low, must be understood as being qualified through separation. When we said some come to the precipice and choose to fly, we are simply saying that the choice indeed is yours at the level of the individual, but the collective as a whole has decided that it will lift because indeed it must.
Does anybody have any thoughts about that? I had one kind of realization as he was talking, which was that I catch myself, I'm aware, I notice, it is noticed that the small self is trying to imagine what the transition will be. And there is an effort to sort of comfort oneself by trying to place imagery or words or feelings. I mean, there's lots of different techniques used to try to imagine it. And the challenge for the small self, I think, is to under is to accept and experience, actually to have the experience of all things rising in awareness, regardless of what they are. To stay in that state of just full immersion in awareness itself, the full beingness of awareness itself, and then allowing whatever arises to arise within it without any judgment or attachment. Rick, good morning.
Good morning, friends. Good to be here with you all.
You too.
I need some correction because I wasn't sure if he had said there is none of this chosen. We are all chosen. And nobody, I don't know if he said arises above anyone or below anyone. We all get there together. Is that what he said? Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought,
Yeah.
wait a minute, that completely goes against everything I hear in a lot of these rooms. So that's
Yeah. He,
wonderful.
he said we have to get rid of the many are called, but few are chosen.
Right.
We have to get rid of that because everyone is called and everyone has been chosen.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Anybody else? Anybody else hear anything? Does anybody else catch themselves? Rana may want to comment on this because she reacted, but anybody else sort of become aware that they're working to imagine what the transition will feel like, sort of to put some kind of interior qualification on what that might be? And if so, what does that do? What does that feel like? And what arises from that? Lonnie, thank you for raising your hand.
This agreement to walk in surrender, to in some ways, I guess, have the silence, which is not silence at all because it allows me to hear so much of the way, for lack of a better term, life speaks, or shows, or directs, or leads. Wow, I'm right in this moment as I'm talking. The vibration is so strong through the center of my system. I I need to ask you to repeat your question so I can answer it again.
Oh, well, you're definitely in the moment. And my question was whether or not anyone is aware of moments within their experience where they're trying to anticipate what this transition that Paul is talking about will feel like or look like for themselves.
So there's kind of laughter in my head because I got kind of dropped right in that moment of it. There's this awareness of flow. There's this awareness of shifting, but I have a memory of in other times when I would be that awareness, there would be fear that would accompany it. And what's different now is that there is no fear that's accompanying it. There's no story. There's, knowing that this is what's happening allows me to not attach a fear story to it and allows me to really be curious about, wow, what the heck is this going to be? I have this awareness of late that I'm floating with my feet up and I'm having less and less option to put my feet down. And I just need to really learn how to float. And so right now, even as I'm speaking, there's this of this is just so fucking cool. I don't even care what it's gonna be. It's just what this is. It's just so fucking cool.
Wow. I,
So
I love that. Thank you so much. Floating and you don't have to put your feet down. That's a great analogy. I like or metaphor. That's really great. I love it. I'm going to remember that.
it came out of a meditation when I was sitting, and then I was in one of the circles in one of the places that I get to sit, and really loud I heard, are you going to be floating? You're in the flow? Are you going to try to do it with your feet down, still trying to control shit? Or are you going to pick your feet up?
Yeah.
So, and it's been playing and replaying and replaying on.
I had my teacher Zoe Marai used to talk about being the twig in the stream. And she said, if you don't want to be the twig, you can put your feet down and you can walk upstream and you will feel the flow of the water around your legs. It will give you a definite feeling. It might make you feel grounded and secure in some ways, but you'll always be walking past old territory and it will be a struggle. If you just lie back and become a twig in the stream, you might bump up against certain things, but you'll always be in the flow. And so what you just said really brought that teaching back to mind for me. That was really lovely. And Sandra looks like she has her hand up. So
Well, I think that's a really interesting question that you asked. And so it just came to me, and it's pretty much the same thing that Lonnie said. We're already in transition. I'm not thinking about what it will be at some point in the future. And I really like that they said there are stages because it's not always the same. But for me, I have a clear remembering of what it was like before I knew any of this. I know what my life was like, and it was always an efforting, it was always a striving. And so to me, what it's like now is so beautiful that all the only anticipation is um, more, more of what already is, more aliveness, a feeling of being so alive and so present, and and then the only anticipation is more of this. And so to me, it helps to remember what it was like before, because there's a before and an after for me. And I'm in the after now. And it's pretty incredible. It's just an incredible to be here with all of you and to know that there are others with me in it. So that, yeah, it's unfolding as it will. It's evolving as it will, and I'm just enjoying it.
beautiful. Great answers. I've written down both of your answers because I think they're so great. Wow. Beautiful. Okay. Who wants to read this morning? Anybody want to volunteer? Cindy? Okay, Sandra? I'm happy to read. Okay. Patricia? Rick, did you raise your hand? Okay.
I think I saw Lonnie. Did I see Lonnie's hand? I saw Lonnie's
Oh,
hand too.
okay, thank you. I'm busy writing down. I don't notice. Okay. Cindy, Sandra, Patricia, Rick, and Lonnie. That's the order we'll take it. And everybody know where we are? I did put it in the chat, but it may have been, I'll put it in the chat again.
It's now the claim we,
Yep, page
okay,
73.
beautiful.
It's down at pretty much that's the last paragraph at the
I got
bottom
it.
of
Thank
the
you.
page. So Cindy's going to start us out.
Yeah. And Deb, if you don't have the book and you want one and you want us to an open door, that's not the book. We're reading this book.
I'll forward it to you.
But we would be happy to send you a copy if you send us an address. We'll buy it for you if you want. Um, so now you get to just close your eyes and listen. All right, here we go. Now, the claim we have taught you thus far, God is, God is, God is the claim of full reclamation. In other words, friends, when this mandate of truth is impressed in a reality, it reclaims the reality. And we will say this is inclusive of memory. And the true self, as you, is the one who will navigate this truth for you. Imagine for an instant that you stand in a field and everything you have ever known or experienced exists in this field. Your idea of a life lived or 1,000 lives lived, your idea of your own history and your perception of the world's history. Imagine the divine has been excluded from all that you are imagining now. The small self's creations, the painful memories, the trauma you've endured, or the culture has been party to, all existing in this field. Now, in this field, the monad is present as well, as and through you. And you will say these words now very softly, so that you may know them to be true. I have come. I have come. I have come. Now, the divine as you who is here and is in re-articulation, assuming the being you are, may now speak these words. I am in the upper room. You will say this now and imagine this world before you, this field of memory, personal and collective, all ready to be re-seen. And you will speak this now to the field you stand in. Behold, I make all things new. It will be so. God is, God is, God is. And allow this field to be transformed. Again, you may say the words. Behold, I make all things new. God is, God is, God is, and allow the field to be re-seen, to be transformed, all things made new. And it's just on my heart to say, Sandra's voice is in my head going, now remember this is true.
Mhm. Do you want to finish that, Cindy?
And sure. Now, the energetic field that you are claiming this in is also the collective and the individual expression of a life lived. You are claiming this both for yourself and all things that may be present in a collective field, the creations of history, and we will say this, known and unknown, spoken and unspoken. The mystery of our own histories eludes you in most ways. You wish to know what happened and when. What was the cause of the pain you endured? And a culture may do the same, and a warring country the same. And this claim, spoken in truth in this field, will always re-articulate the ideas, the memories, and the manifestation the memories occurred through, in alignment to the upper room. Again, the spoken word. Behold, I make all things new. God is, God is, God is, spoken into being and transformed. We will take a pause for Paul. We will return shortly. Period, period, period. Stop now, please.
Mm.
So I can tell you, I've been sitting during my diet and contemplation this morning. I invited the fear of truth that is held in the Cindy mind body system to come into consciousness. Because I recognized if there's fear here, then it has to be the fear of truth. And then I opened the book to the course, Deb. I opened the course to and asked about what to sit with for Monday's teaching. And it opened quite specifically to I will accept the atonement for myself. So everything, this reading, what came during the diet this morning, I will accept the atonement for myself. It's all about acknowledging the illusory nature of the split mind and giving me the opportunity over and over and over again to choose to stand still and allow the fear to be reclaimed. So that's what this is right now. Thank you.
Yeah, I will accept the atonement for myself that's really powerful. I've got somebody at my door. Sandra, can you take over? I'll be right back.
Yes.
Thank you.
While we were reading this, I had this urge to share something that's been percolating all week long, starting with the reading on Monday when we were talking about how the mind can torture itself. And then on Wednesday at coffee and conversation, where many of you were sharing hurts from childhood. And Amy had talked about how it gets imprinted in a way that's even without words. And then we revisit it all throughout these lifetimes. So all that's been going on. And then we read this, and I realize that especially the part about reclaiming, and in the beginning it says you reclaim reality and you can reclaim memories. I can't find the exact line, but it's reclaiming the past. And in reclaiming it, seeing it and experiencing it differently. So what came to my mind and what's been working on me this week is that it's all about perception. Everything's about perception. The whole Course in Miracles helping us change our perception, see things differently, experience things differently. And that perception was so sealed in our childhood. There were so many filters that are there that it's hard for us to see things as they truly are. We replay old hurts. Old hurts come up and seem to grab us and pull us in to something that happened years ago. So about a month ago, when I was visiting my grandmother's birth town in Sicily, I was standing in front of the door looking at this. This building was exactly the same as when she was born over 100 years ago. She was born in 1903. And I was standing there And all of a sudden, I remember that my father would always wanted to come back to Italy, but he never did. He never had that opportunity. Now, my father was what I call a mean man. He was mean. He was verbally and physically abusive to my sister and myself. He was an angry man through, and I had carried that and I had tried to forgive him over and over and over again. And it just never really took, if you know what I'm saying. I mean, I would mentally forgive him, but it wasn't a real true forgiveness. And while I'm standing there and I thought of my father, in a blink, all of a sudden, I saw him as this innocent little boy. He was completely innocent. And to me, that's the miracle of this work. It's like, oh, yes, he was innocent. Everything was reclaimed, the past was reclaimed. I was seeing it from a higher, more expansive view. I was in the emotional moment thinking I was there for my grandmother, and all the while I was there, or maybe I was, whatever I was there for. The memories changed, and all of a sudden I remembered loving moments with him. And it was explicit. I can't explain it. Can't say that word either. And then what they're saying here is we reclaim everything, all of it. We re-articulate the ideas, the memories, and the manifestation of the memories by aligning with the upper room through the spoken word. I am God, I am with God, I am of God. And that actually happens. Is what I want to say. It's not like some fantasy. The truth is true. And so therefore, all the things that I think happened all went through a perceptual field that was not clear, that was not expansive. It was all seen through the small cell, the egoic cell. And then I got the opportunity to see it all completely anew, as the book guides are telling us. And like I said, this has been going on all week. And we talked about on Wednesday about healing that self, healing that small self. And I could see clearly that there is nothing to heal. It doesn't have to go through some big, long clearing process. It's just not what I thought it was.
Mm.
So I don't think you meant for me to take over in that way, Amy, but that's what happened.
When you say that, Sandra, it moves me to, it may be in part what you thought it was, but it's not all you thought it was.
Yes, exactly.
So,
And the all was so much bigger than the little part. And maybe that experience was purposeful, as we heard from the near-death experience. But just that expansive view brought to a place of peace. When you ask, what's it going to be like? I mean, it's so peaceful. So the word equanimity comes in. It's like you can see all of the parts, even the part you were just talking to, and see it with equanimity, not with fear, not with anger, not with angst. This has to be healed. I can't get rid of this feeling. None of that.
mm-hmm.
I must forgive. None of that. It was just innocence. Thank you all for listening to that. That's been going on with me all week, and it helped to express it.
Thank you. Deb, you're
Deb.
up.
I was so struck, Sandra, with the word equanimity. And the word on the back end of that for me was grace and reclaiming the part that we read about reclaiming, there was a channel of light that came in and brought a new acceptance of innocence that before you ever talked, Sandra, I had written in the chat and reclaiming innocence because that was the profound message. And there's this little kid in me in that process that has been struggling to know how to be in service to this process. How to be in service to this process. There's a word for you, Lonnie. Miss seeing you, girl. And the battle, so in this little kid is a scene that she's carried for much of her life. And I'm trying to lay out a beach blanket at the beach, and we're with a group of people that love me. And I'm experiencing a level of frustration because I can't get the blanket to lay in the way that I believe would be right or appropriate. And so all the people that love me are coming into my circle to aid in my laying out this blanket. And the frustration grew because they were laying it to their vision, not necessarily to mine. And it created a level of frustration for everybody as they were trying to appease this 3-year-old kid that had a vision and couldn't manifest it in the way that I saw it. And I think it speaks to many places in my life of looking for validation outside of myself to write something. It's to set it right, and so in this process, part of the battle is looking outside of myself for acknowledgement or validation that I'm doing, that I'm being, not doing, that I'm being, and here's that word again, right. Am I seeing it right? Am I feeling it right? Am I living it right? And that's never gleaned from the outside in, it's gleaned from the inside.
The beautiful part of it is when we see the innocence of others, we recognize the innocence of ourselves.
Yes.
And there becomes this beautiful feeling of letting go of all the self incriminations, all of that. And it's like a wash, a wash.
And I'd love to know, and I don't, and this is the quandary for me, is I want to say, Rana, I'm so glad you're here and I hope you're well. And then I feel, well, maybe that's not what I'm supposed to say or how I'm supposed to be. So I'm working on it and know that I'm thinking of you, girl.
I'm here. I'm still in limbo. I'm going to make a decision whether or not to bag this diet this afternoon after I make yet another phone call. I've reached out to the people in charge, and there's just no word on the approval of this thing. So it's interesting. I love you.
I said, love you too, girl, but I was muted.
Mm-hmm.
And am I allowed to walk with you? Because in my heart, that's what I feel, is I feel
Oh,
like,
hell yeah.
there you go.
All right, Patricia, you're up next, and Sandra, you're going to read next. So, but Patricia and then Lonnie.
Good morning, everyone. It's been a busy week and I have not been able to be here as much as I want to. So I'm very glad to be here today. One of the things when I think about innocence, the first word that comes to me is being open. You know, a child is so open and so receptive. And that's all I wanted to say. So innocence to me is openness and reception. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Without fear, right? Without fear. Yeah. Thank you. Lonnie,
I think it's just so funny every time this process happens for me that I want to put my hand down because I'm like, well, you know what? They're going to read so I can put it back up. And then Patricia says what she says, and it brings what I was going to say right back to the table. And I was in a meeting. I don't know. I now don't know where I am when I am anymore. I'm just there. And it was in one of the meetings that someone was talking about that image of Jesus on the cross and the forgive them, Lord, for they know not what they do. But they talked about it as though it was saying they are too ignorant. And I remember in that moment moving into consideration that it wasn't ignorance, but innocence. True innocence that they were in, even with the acts they were committing. And it's been a part of these last couple of days of looking back. You know, I always believe that the only good reason to look back is to see how far I've come. And it's helped me to do some more looking back and recalibrating what I think things were versus what in truth they were. And I recently had this beautiful opportunity to see into an experience that I had taken and hung the label of this is because I was crazy that this happened. And it was just a simple experience that happened that my response to, I assumed was because I was crazy. And more recently, in a conversation with someone, there was an urging in my system to tell them that story. And it gave them a 180-degree turnaround. And I remembered really clearly the moment that I was in the experience thinking, oh God, why is this happening? And when I got to tell the story, I got that this is why that happened, so that you could tell this. And I realized even in that moment when it happened and I was cursing and attributing it to crazy, in that ignorance and confusion, I too was so innocent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
Mm.
There was a reason for me to read that wrong and think I was going to the other place and end up here today. There was a reason. I love it.
Mm. I love that, you know, the recognition of one's own innocence and the full acceptance of that is a moment of such grace. Really is. It's beautiful. Sandra, you want to take it away?
Yes, it keeps going on about the same topic. So what you have chosen is to re-articulate at the cost of the known. We think we know, don't we? We think we know everything. Okay. And the choice to re-articulate at the cost of the known implies that all things must be made known, including the foundation of identity that you have known yourself through. Now, the historical data that informs your every waking moment is always present. It does not go away. You know what a log cabin looks like. You know what an airplane is and does. but without the attachment or the meaning that has been impressed upon you and the values that have been given throughout time. The act of rearticulation, the monad as expressed, lifts you to a level of vibration where you can no longer agree, underline the word agree, which means confirm a reality that you are moving beyond. Oh, Amy, that takes me right back to what you said a minute ago. It did happen, but yeah, I still know what a plane is. I still know what a log cabin is. I still know what happened, but I see it completely differently. I no longer give it the value, and I no longer see myself as the person I thought I was.
Yeah.
Isn't that what that says? That's what it says to me.
It's what it says to me. It says you just can't agree with the old interpretation anymore
Yes.
because you see it in a new light. And it's not that it goes away, it's just that it's more informed. There's
Yeah, that's perfect.
yeah, I mean, the French have a great saying, some of you may know this better than I, with understanding brings forgiveness or comes forgiveness. And I've always loved that phrase because what that says is just what this just said. You see what may have been interpreted as a wrong or a mistake, but you see it with more information and a new understanding, and then that brings it brings a greater comprehension, which is really what this is saying. You actually comprehend the reality of the situation more deeply.
And you have to be willing, at the cost of the known, you have to be willing to say, I can see this differently.
Yeah.
And I will see it differently.
Yeah.
And my mom used to always say there, but for the grace of God go I. And yeah, we could have been in those shoes, the ones we're complaining about. So
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
you want to let somebody else read?
It's Patricia's turn. You're up. Do you know where you are, Patricia? At the top of page 76?
Yes, I do. The rearticulation, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. The rearticulation of history, or the reknowing of history, is not whitewashing. Excuse me. It's not whitewashing. It's not pretending it didn't happen. It is re-seeing it. And what has caused you the most pain in any culture, in any civilization, has had its genesis in the denial of the divine. When you stand in the field and you claim, God is, God is, God is, to all that has been created, you are also informing the genesis of what catalyzed events into being. I want to read that again. When you stand in the field and you claim God is, God is, God is, to all that has been created, you are also informing the genesis, or what catalyzed events into being. The one becomes a martyr because he holds a belief in suffering. The one who becomes a tyrant because he seeks to overpower others through his presence is acting out, are acting out from the implicit denial of the divine that is reclaimed, reconfirmed, and chosen anew from the upper room.
This is, thank you, Patricia. I can see we have a couple hands raised. So, Cindy, you first and then William.
Yeah, just really quickly, this reminds me of Natalie Sedman talking about the whole mind and the human mind, and how, from the human mind perspective, we do not comprehend the big picture. From the whole mind perspective, we were in full agreement, and part of what created whatever the experiences are that are arising in the human experience. So I
Yeah,
just wanted to be able to say that out loud because this seems to fit beautifully with what she was sharing. You know, from a human mind, I didn't want to lose my eye.
yeah.
But from the whole mind perspective, this was an experience that the all that is felt was beneficial. So,
I agree. I think that's really important. And that brings me back to why A Course in Miracles is true, because our function is forgiveness. And the forgiveness is what opens the door to standing in the field and re-seeing the field. William, you're up.
What's coming to me is it seems very practical in terms of my experiencing. And the word comes instead of the re-seeing, that makes sense. It's the unseeing. It's unseeing. That I see that image, but when I unsee it, it just doesn't even exist. And I'm seeing that more and more, that when I look away, it disappears. So it's a different way of saying reclaiming or reseeing or just seems to be so practical when I look at my son and then all of a sudden I look away and I unsee him. It's like I unsee that image that is so caught up in all kinds of innocent feelings, judgments, and you know what. So I just find it so almost practical. It's so immediate when it happens. And it's like that old word. I love the blink or the flash or the moment of now. Now, now, now.
Thank you. Yeah. Family, huh? Thank you, Patricia. Rick is up next to read.
Morning, friends. Let me
You know where you are?
I sure do.
Okay.
The talk that you will be receiving on the intellect in days to come will reclaim you each in comprehension that what you think is wisdom is merely rote. And until you know wisdom, which is the knowing as of God, you are just doing your best to sort through data to make an informed choice. But because the data has been so entrained through logic and through fear, your endeavor to sort through is like trying to separate poisoned peas in a pan. It may look better, it may be as bad, but until you realize the truth, everything you claim must be informed by its inheritance. Now there is a high inheritance, the divine self, the kingdom, your true inheritance. And then there is the inheritance of the small self, neither good nor bad, but challenging in most ways. The inheritance of the small self, who you would think you are, based upon who you thought you were supposed to be, what it means to be a man or a woman, or is this or that. The ideas or trends of each may be ever changing, but the fundamental truth of your presence, the eternal self, can be claimed, and in its reclamation, reclaim all it encounters.
Any thoughts about that? I mean, it's basically telling us that the intellect is not a way of knowing, which is totally jives with A Course in Miracles.
It seems like that statement at the top, they no longer agree. There is an agreement who I thought I was supposed to be. It's letting go of that agreement too. That's the unseeing of it. And that letting go of what I have known. I don't want to let go of that. That's been my whole existence. That's been my image of who I gained, my sense of, oh, this is who I am. So anyway, I think it's just, oh, I've made that agreement and I'm very loyal. I stick to it. That's the loyalty of the family culture, so forth and so forth and so forth.
Yeah, I mean, make the claim, you are not my mother. You are just a person, but you are not my mother. You are not my sister. You are a person, but I am not your sister.
Yeah, I love that. I am not your mother.
I am not. I am not your mother. I am not your sister. And I am actually part of a larger family. And I deny the claim that you make on me to be loyal to you just because I was born in the same family.
But I can still feel the connection of where that was intended, but not the material, the imagery of it. Yeah, yeah.
That's a radical statement, though, isn't it? It's really radical.
And I think
In the past, you would be kicked out of the group, the safety of the group, if you said that. Sorry, Sandra.
I was just going to say that's why it said in a couple of paragraphs ago there is a cost.
Yes. Yes. Cindy and then Rick.
There's a picture that jumped out at me, so I want to read the line again, or the two lines. But because the data has been so entrained through logic and then through fear, your endeavor to sort through is like trying to separate poisoned peas in a pan. One of my favorite ideas from A Course in Miracles is this idea of egoic propaganda. And this reminds me of this. The attempt to use logic or to try to, at this point, understand the insane world, try to figure out which side is correct, for instance, when the truth is there are no sides, is as ridiculous as attempting to find the poisoned peas in the pan. Like that whole image invites me, what is it? Ken Wapnick says you can just leave the sandbox at any time. Somehow this picture says, yep, as long as I keep attempting to herd cats or make the clouds in the sky stand still, I'm screwed. That's what this points to. Like it's illusory. It's going to keep changing. So stop trying to take the illusory aspects of the world and have it make sense. So I can't be reminded of that enough,
Yeah.
is what that boils down to. So thank
Thank
you
you.
for letting me say it out loud again. But
Thank
that's
you.
it.
I love that Ken Wapnick quote, Cindy. Love it. Rick, you're up next.
Good morning. What's coming up for me from the conversation is back in the 80s, I remember happening to, it wasn't by my choice, but when I came out as a gay man in my family, they wanted absolutely nothing to do with me. And I had to remake a family in the world, the new world that I kind of got projected into. As a result of that, um, I got to create a new family. AA actually was a big part of that. And so what comes up to me with the reading is that there's good, bad, right, or wrong, in the duality of things is all I knew until what it speaks about in the book was choosing divinity as opposed to, the duality system, um, which is quite interesting for somebody like me because I didn't believe in any of that, what I would call horseshit. Only to know that that is the crack that allows something different for
Yeah.
me to be something different.
Yeah.
So whether I was on topic or not, but that's what came up for me. So I appreciate it.
That you're reminding me of some of the things Lonnie has shared, which is just that, and we all know this, but sometimes, the best thing that happens to you is wrapped in a what looks like a wrapping paper of crap. The gift comes in sometimes really ugly wrapping paper.
Yeah, and another thing to add on to there, I mean, very few of us made it out of the 80s as gay men. Most of the people I know are dead
From
from that.
AIDS.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so there is this huge um blank spot in the age category that I'm in my community. There are very few people. So it's kind of interesting. But again, I have to choose divinity because on the dualistic, it's very doom and gloom. It can be. So I don't know. I took it in a morbid way, but yeah.
I think a lot of us, Rick, don't have that realization that you just shared in our daily life, that there's it's almost like there was a war fought and only certain people died. And we don't have that comprehension in our lives. But I think back on um, two or three of the gay men that I knew in the 80s, and they're all gone. They're all gone. So you're exactly right. Mm. Thank you for that. Thank you for that reminder. William.
Well, you said wrapping paper, immediately image, perception, projection, all those divinity. I think I use those words so loosely, they don't really ring true. And I was noticing last night and listening to my son, I put mine in a space of I really don't know. I don't know. And then I sat there and I didn't have any reaction about wanting to change what he was saying or defend myself. It's like I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. So that to me is much more immediate than the word divinity or God even. Or it's like whatever. There's something inside that it's the integration, and then reading about the presence process is so powerful. It is a process. It's a process that's far beyond what I think I know about psychology, the mind, anything. It's like my nails are growing, all these things are happening. I have no knowing of all this. And when I listened to it, it was just so easy and I could feel the love. And every now and then I wouldn't agree with necessarily what he was saying. Then I get back to, I don't know. I just know nothing.
Thank you for that. Lonnie's up to read next, and that really actually reminds me when you're saying I don't know, you're taking your feet off the floor and floating down the stream. It's the
Yeah.
same thing, you remove the certainty of the weight of your feet, and you don't you don't know where you're going. You're just allowing. And Cindy just put in uh, Paul Selig is also a gay man, which he does talk about very freely, who lived in New York City and watched many in his community pass on. That's right. That's right. Hmm. Lonnie, do you know where we are?
Now the field that you stood in,
That is right.
now the field that you stood in was comprised of many things, the artifacts or memories of personal history, and the residual effect of choices made by others throughout time. The one who harmed you as a child was provoked to do that harm through his or her own history. And the idea of culpability and blame begins to vanish in a certain way when you understand that the genesis of any act of harm provoked by fear is the implicit denial of the divine. Now, indeed, you are responsible to your acts, but to claim another in darkness because of his or her acts is to deem them as separate. And if you wish to claim everyone who has ever harmed you, known or unknown, in this field, and claim the offering we offered you, behold, I make all things new. God is, God is, God is. You will see the light that was present in them, that was so denied that they could cause such harm. In this act, you release them and liberate yourself from the residual effect of your claim of their act. I have to stop for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised in a household with a stepfather that, when I was tiny, to me was so intelligent until I named him the professor. I had great respect for him. However, as he grew into my stepfather, there came a time when he let me know that I was his property and he could do whatever he wanted to with me, which he set about doing. Jump ahead years later, and he's on his deathbed. And I am moved to go to see him, not to yell and scream or anything, but to let him know that I'm okay, that I survived. The reason this happens is because I don't even know what to call it, but there was a day of sitting still in that consideration of seeing him where there were flashed memories of his stories of childhood, of growing up in migrant farms, of having a father who came and went only to get his mother pregnant, and he was child number 6 of 7, of his examples of what men were, the men in the migrant farms and how they treated women and the way that they treated children and the sexual acts he witnessed as a child with animals and this and that and the third. And it suddenly became so clear that I needed him to know that his woundedness didn't ruin me. And for about a week, I felt like I had to go and tell him this because I had survived. And he ended up dying before I got a chance to, but I also knew that he knew that I had released him from that because I suddenly realized that he had no intention of harming me the way he did. That the being that he was born as would have never done that without what life had inflicted upon him. So as I was reading this passage, that, the fact that I've had to reconsider both my parents, all three of my parents, actually. But that one there, that was one of the most freeing things that ever occurred for me, for this being.
Mm. It strikes me that that is such an act of power. Your choice to do that.
It was about me not suffering anymore. It was so much less about him and all about me just not wanting to. I was drowning. I was literally drowning from the inside in how I was carrying that. All about me. Thank you, Cindy. Should I read forward or just leave room?
We only have 1 minute left,
Mhm.
and yeah, I'm not saying anything because I'm kind of speechless, Lonnie. You're with what you just said. You just taught me something about my own father that was really important, and I really appreciate that. Anybody else have any comments or?
I'd like to add this that I see, Lonnie, it's like we all come forth. We all are coming out. I don't know. I know I had a moment with my father where I had been disagreeing with his religious so much about him and disidentifying myself, pushing him away. And then I got in touch with, I just love this man so much. And I was embarrassed because I couldn't say it to him without just crying. And then when I was through, I felt like I gave him what was really both of ours. It was something I owed him, the love that I had for him. And I think of my granddaughter when she came out at 11 saying she was transgender. I hear Rick saying, my little measurements, I think it's coming forth and declaring and reclaiming, who am I really? And that's what I hear Lonnie, just wow, what power. This is really who I am, and I want you to know who I am.
That's said better than I said it, William. It's such a statement of power, of forgiveness and power at the same time. It's phenomenal.
And freedom.
Yes, freedom. Yes. Wow, beautiful. What a discussion. I feel like,
Can I just say you're right on point, Pat? Because the one thing through all of this that everything in me has ever wanted was to be free.
all right, this is the end of the week, and I just want to say from my own experience this week, being in this group I have heard some of the most powerful conversation, some of the most healing and wonderful expressions of the truth from all of you this week, every single one of you. And I'm really grateful for it. And, we talked about how, your family of birth isn't necessarily your family. And you can claim a new family. And I don't care if we never see each other again on Zoom. You folks have been my family. And there is no one that knows Amy, this little self, as well as you do. knows my deeper truth as well as all of you. And I know that I have heard all of you say that that's true for some of you as well. So it's with great gratitude that we close this out. I'll turn it over to Cindy.
Yeah, I love us. I don't, well, we talked about it this hour. I don't choose to use my intellect to try to figure out what we're doing here or what's going to happen next. I'm going to trust what brought us together. And yeah, I'm going to stop the recording. If not before, I'll see y'all Monday.